Hi everyone, we're out here in Durand, Wisconsin today, taking a couple minutes just to talk about potential soybean replanting and situations where you'd want to evaluate that. So we're in this field today. This was planted initially at 160,000 plants per acre in 30-inch rows. Did a couple stand counts prior to the video. We seem to be coming back consistently around that 150,000 plants per acre. So we're sitting in a pretty good position here, but as we're having this discussion with a lot of other growers, that doesn't seem to be the case.
Right, we're seeing some issues with the wet weather that we've had. Things are moving along slow. This ground's on some sand, so we're starting to see good emergence cotyledons up out of the ground. Other ones are just poking through. So it's the time to get out there and start looking at stands. With soybeans, there's still an opportunity to come back and do any type of replant that you'd want to do. So our stands are good here, Mike, but what type of stands would we be looking at to maybe go in there and do a replant situation?
Right, so I mean, we start looking at numbers here. Ideally, you're going to want to, you'd like to have 100,000 plants per acre to get potentially 100% of your yield potential. That being said, soybeans are very forgiving, right? And you start looking at some of the replant calculators and calendars that are out there, there are a lot of instances where you can be as low as 80,000 and still maintain as much as 80% of your yield potential. So these are things to think about when you're evaluating that stand versus tearing it up and starting over from square one at this point in the game.
Right, and as we look at, aside from just emergence, some of the issues that we're seeing on why these stands are reduced. On beans that were untreated, maybe cut back on that seed treatment this year to save a little cost. The slow growth has led to some pythium starting to show up in those plants, reducing that stand, but also likely stressing and stunting the development of the rest of the beans that do emerge. So pythium's likely a major cause of some of the stand loss that we may be seeing out here.
And something else that's come up in conversation, and we were just talking about this, Ryan, you sent some photos the other day as we were chatting, been seeing some herbicide damage as you've been out in the countryside, so you can elaborate a little bit on what you've been seeing there.
Right, pre-emerge herbicide, especially where they have any type of resistance issues, and just in general as a herbicide tool to manage resistance, pre-emerge herbicides is becoming a lot more widespread, and we're not always aware of some of the issues that can pop up with them. Past few years after you applied that pre-emerge herbicide, weather conditions have been good, they got out of the ground, we didn't see any type of injury. With the cold, slow growth on this, that pre-emerge herbicide is a PPO. As that plant starts to emerge, as that hook and the cotyledons come through, you can get some rain splash onto those leaves, and that herbicide's in there, and that can show up injury systems. This PPO injury, as we're showing here in this picture, is from splash of that herbicide from the soil up to those cotyledons, up to the hook, that's going to cause damage. Now, depending on the severity on there, most of the plants are probably going to survive, but you may lose a few percent of those as well. Something that you need to keep an eye on coming through there.
Especially on some of these fields where you don't have soybeans emerging evenly at this point, it'll be important to keep reevaluating that. So even in some instances where you lose some plants, you have some that haven't emerged yet. So close follow-up is going to be pretty important here to get a full understanding of what you have for a plant population, and making sure that you're doing this in several different locations of the field to really get a better idea of what you're fighting this year. So with that, that's our Pioneer Minute for today. Thank you.